Mark, do you remember a few modules ago we talked about those diamond-shaped colored hazard labels?
Sure do.
What if we had a big cargo tank and we had to communicate the hazards related to the load? Or there was a tractor trailer and we wanted to tell the world what kind of hazards were related to the contents of that trailer. Do you think that would be a good mechanism, the 4-inch hazard label?
That and a megaphone.
Megaphone, usually not an option.
Oh.
Anything else?
Giant labels?
You got it.
Really?
A giant, yes, a giant label. These are called placards.
All right.
Basically another word for a sign.
Okay.
And these are kind of like big labels. They are about 3 times bigger than a label.
Mm-hmm.
They are designed for emergency responders being able to see them from a greater distance because we're dealing with larger volumes, larger quantities of hazardous material.
Gotcha.
And they really are used in 2 different ways.
Okay.
One of them is identifying the contents of a bulk packaging.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say it's a cargo tank or a portable tank. Another application would be a tractor trailer, a freight container, a box truck. That may be holding non-bulk packagings of hazardous material inside, which you cannot see from the road.
Okay.
So where the 4-inch hazard label may be identifying the hazards related to each individual container, you can't see that from the outside of the vehicle. So this is used to tell, again, principally emergency response personnel, what are they dealing with when they come on a scene.
Okay.
Now, we're a shipper,
All right.
an offerer. We're going to give hazardous materials to a carrier. What do you suppose our responsibility is in terms of these signs, these placards?
Making sure that they're properly placarded on the vehicles.
Actually, no. And this is good
Really?
news. Yes. That's the carrier's responsibility, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yep. To make sure a highway vehicle is properly placarded, the carrier needs to know what they have on board and which placard and when to display it.
Oh, okay.
However, if we are offering a hazardous material, we need to make that placard available to the driver. So if we are offering flammable solid, we need to make sure we have these in quadruplicate because placarding means all 4 sides of the vehicle. Okay? It's a little bit different for a bulk packaging because we are really responsible for communication of the hazards related to that packaging.
Sure.
So if it were a tank, like a portable tank we were offering, we actually, in that case, would be responsible for making sure the placard's on the tank.
Now, much like the stickers on the boxes or the containers, does orientation matter? Does distance between the placards matter?
All 4 sides. There are some cases with some smaller bulk packagings where the placard can be on 2 opposite sides, but for the most part, it's all 4 sides visible from each side of the vehicle or each side of the bulk packaging.
Okay.
Now, if more than one placard is required on a transport vehicle, freight container, even multi-unit tanks, which have different compartments, you will see multiple placards.
Okay.
And we're going to talk about all the rules associated with when they need to be displayed. So, Mark, selecting placards is done by referencing the placarding tables. And you're going to see these in a number of places. If you have DOT Chart 13, which we talked about in the labeling module, they're right on the back.
Okay.
Also in 172.504, that's where the tables are in the regulations.
Okay.
There are 2 tables because there are different rules for hazardous materials that are more dangerous. For example, high-level explosives, 1.1, 1.2, and 1.3 explosives, dangerous and wet materials, gases that are poisonous by inhalation. These are the worst of the worst.
Sure.
Any of these materials that are loaded onto a transport vehicle or in a freight container, they have to be identified by the use of the placard regardless of the quantity that's actually on board.
Okay.
Because it's crucial for emergency responders to know that they're present.
Okay.
For other more common materials, more garden variety materials, flammable liquids, corrosives, those types of things.
Sure.
There's actually a threshold that the driver can use.
Oh.
if they look at all those table 2 categories and they add them all up, and this is contents plus containers, so the aggregate gross total by weight of all the hazardous materials on board, and they're all from table 2,
Sure.
once they go over 1,001 pounds, that's when they actually have to placard the vehicle.
Okay.
And they will have to placard for every category,
Okay.
not just those categories that went over 1,001 pounds.
Sure.
So it's all or nothing.
Yep.
They hit 1,001 pounds, they placard for every category.
Okay.
So again, we need to offer the placard to the driver, but if the driver already has the placard, then
Right.
our responsibility then is fulfilled
Okay.
in terms of freight containers and tractor trailers and
Okay.
so on. Now, another type of placard that you'll see, and it's actually an exception, it's used for consolidating. So if a driver, for example, has to display 3 or 4 different hazard placards on all 4 sides of the truck,
Yep.
there's a means by which they can consolidate down to a single placard that has a single statement on it. And that's known as the dangerous placard. You want to find that one in your flip,
I don't see why
placard
not.
flip thingy? Now, the dangerous placard can only be used for table 2 materials. There are some restrictions on the use of the dangerous placard. For example, if the driver were to pick up a single category of hazardous material exceeding 2,205 pounds from one location, that category has to carry its individual placard on the outside of the vehicle. Oh, you found it. Oh, it didn't take you long either.
Not so bad. What's up, big guy?
I'm glad you made it, Mark. It's time to talk about placarding of vehicles real life.
Sounds good.
So let's take a look.
Let's do this.
Mark, we want to talk to the participant here about what is really happening in the real world in terms of placarding.
All right.
What does it look like? How do we implement these rules?
Okay, sounds good.
Talk to me about what you have on board.
All right, let me check the old shipping papers there, Doug. All right, it looks like I got here about 5 kilograms of a water reactive solid 4.3,
Okay?
575 pounds of a corrosive liquid acidic inorganic 8-in-1 plastic drum, and about 450 lbs of flammable liquid 3-in-1 55-gallon steel drum.
Okay, so we have over 1,000 pounds of hazardous materials, and we've got 3 categories.
Yes.
Okay. Talk to me about your thinking process with the way you've placarded this vehicle.
All right. Well, I got the dangerous placard up because, as we learned in the studio, dangerous placard can represent 2 or more hazardous categories.
Let me refer back to the placarding tables.
All right.
Take a look at Table 1. And Table 1 represents those categories of materials that require a placard regardless of the quantity actually on board.
I got a 4.3. Rookie mistake.
It's okay, Mark.